Hi, my name is Shay Hardy, and I am the Managing Director for Empower Amsterdam. Today, on this lovely Saturday, rainy Saturday in Amsterdam, I am doing a live talk with the lovely Bernice Feller-Thijm. We're going to talk about unconscious bias and leadership, and she's doing a workshop for us next week, Wednesday, on the 28th of October at 6:30 p.m. And we wanted to share why this conversation is so important and why we think that it's important for leaders to know and understand what we mean by unconscious bias. I've known Bernice since before COVID. We had just met, and then COVID happened, and then Black Lives Matters happened, and we've just been connecting on so many levels with so many different conversations about this and how we can help move the conversation forward. So I'm really excited to have her with me now, and I'll bring her on now to have this conversation. Welcome, Bernice.
Hi, Shay. Good
How are
morning.
you?
I'm pretty well. It's Saturday, so
Yeah.
starting up slowly.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me online on a Saturday. I
Oh,
know
of
you
course.
probably would be sleeping in late or doing anything but going online and being live.
Hmm.
So I appreciate you being here with me. Um, I just want to talk first about you, because I'm not sure a lot of people know about your background and what you do
Hmm.
for people.
So I work as an inclusion strategist, as I like to call it, because we're all diverse people, but the inclusion part is the tricky part. So that's the one I focus on, and I also work as a team performance coach, and I think the two are like naturally a fit. Because when you work in a team, you want everybody in the team to work together. You want to be able to use that diversity of thought and get to the best results for your company, your organization, whatever.
Mhm.
And inclusion is a very big part of that. That people feel that they are included, that they feel that they belong, and that they feel safe, and that makes them contribute. Well, yeah, basically to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, I think I've been talking about this a lot with people, and I'm sure you have been too, because we've been doing a lot of talks. I've seen you online, me online, diversity, inclusion, and we
Yeah,
had our own panel discussion on how to talk about racism.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think even though the conversation is going, there's still a lot of people who feel like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Mm,
I don't know what to say. And they don't understand where the unconscious bias comes from.
yeah,
Or
exactly. And I think that's so important why we're having this discussion, not only today, but Wednesday as well. Because I've been hearing that a lot as well, that people say, well, I'm so afraid to say the wrong thing. I'm not saying anything at all.
yeah,
And that is not where you want to take this. We need to have those difficult conversations. We need to figure out how we are going to do this all together.
yeah,
And for that to do that in a safe way, you need to be aware of how you look into the world. I always say,
mm,
where you grew up, the way you were raised, the education, the
mhm.
country, everything plays into how you look into the world, your own lens, so to speak. And that is so unconscious that people don't know that plays into how they have their social interactions. And
Right.
that's fascinating also about this. So I always say it's not about saying the wrong thing. It's about being aware that not everybody is seeing the same thing that you are seeing. And that's
Right.
the most important thing, I think.
I like how you put that because, you think, and I know I can understand why you don't want to say the wrong thing, offend
Mm.
someone,
Yeah.
but it's about taking that moment to think about, is what I'm about to say just from my own point of view, or is it something that, might be seen differently by someone else? And
Exactly. And it's not, and when you think about it, it's not that scary at all. Because if you have that space where there's the respect, people are treated well, then you can just say, you know what? I think of I think of it like this. What do you think? Just being
Yeah,
curious, asking questions. That's basically the main thing. But you have to be aware that you have to stop assuming, and that's the most
right.
important thing when we talk about unconscious bias. It's about stop assuming and being curious and asking people, okay, what do you think about this?
Agree. Agree. Part of the workshop that you're going to do is centered around leadership,
Yeah,
but even if you're not a manager, you still can be a leader. You still can help to
absolutely.
create that space, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I find it interesting that I find it interesting that sorry, I got distracted. Lana sent us a message. Hey, Lana, if you're watching,
Hey,
thanks
Lana.
for watching. Uh, Lana is someone within our network who had the conversation with us when we had a panel discussion about racism. I'm just going to share her comment because I think it's relevant.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
Yes, it is
Yeah,
important to have these brave and safe spaces to hold conversations. The topics are triggering for a lot of people. And what you said before was about having um, a space to have that anyone can do this, right?
yeah,
And you're going to be showing how you could do it as a leader. And I think you can
exactly.
go ahead. Sorry.
And it's okay.
Go
It's Saturday. Come on. You need to relax. First, a sip of tea. Hmm.
ahead.
No, but no, like you said, I think it's important that everybody is responsible and feels responsible for creating that safe space. So in that sense, everybody is a leader, and I also talk about that also always within my teams.
Mhm.
That everybody is responsible for creating the right team culture. So when I talk about inclusive leadership, of course, I talk about managers and people in leadership positions, but I also talk about just you and me as members of a team, an organization, a group of people that we feel responsible for reflecting about, like I said, how we look into the world, but also willingness to be vulnerable and also a willingness to
Mm,
learn about other things and other people. For me, those are really the key points of being an inclusive leader. Is your willingness to learn and your willingness to challenge yourself, and that you take responsibility, that you do it, but also call people out and say, well,
mm,
hey, why are we doing this? Is this okay? Even if you're not in the conversation, you see something happening, and you really feel something needs to be said. That also plays into being an inclusive leader. And on top of that, of course, managers and like I said, people in leadership positions, they are responsible for a group, so they get the extra layer, so to speak. And for me, the most important thing about being an inclusive leader within an organization is actually there are two things. On the one hand, when there is diversity and you see that people are not able to participate or they need extra help, that you provide that help, that you create that equity that everyone can participate. So that's, I think, one important thing for leaders. And the other hand, when you have a group of people and everybody's saying the same thing and everybody's agreeing, which on the surface seems nice, but if you dig a little bit deeper, I think for managers, they need to be able to rock the boat, so to speak, and
yeah.
say, why is everybody really agreeing? Does everybody feel safe to disagree, and really challenge their own teams? And I think that's a spectrum where you as a manager need to play with.
Ooh. No one wants to rock the boat though.
I do. I love rocking the boat.
I love rocking the boat too. I think when we're uncomfortable, that's when we grow. That's when the real
Yeah.
magic happens. And
Mm.
being afraid or embracing that discomfort is actually a good thing and not being afraid of it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when when should a manager, and you brought up something that I thought was interesting because you said everyone's saying yes, but when are there other times where you think, okay, we need to check our unconscious bias. This has gone wrong in our organization. We need to do something about about this? What have you seen come up?
Yeah, so mostly it happens when the shit already has hit the fan, so to speak. So
It's
yeah,
always
let's be
late. It's always
honest.
late.
I hope not small children are watching. Sorry, you're
Kids
gonna
are
get
out
pulled on
doing
Facebook.
Saturday things.
No, but seriously, often when things have gone wrong, then they realize, oh, why is this happening? And then they start figuring out, okay, nobody said something, and
Mm,
then in the team meeting or in the discussion was like, someone says, yeah, but I already knew this was gonna fail. And my first question then is like, why didn't you say something? And it's like, yeah, well, everybody was saying that it would work, blah 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 blah. And that is what you want to be careful of when you are a manager. Are you being devil's advocate?
mm,
Projects in day to day when you are sitting in a meeting. Oh, this is an interesting one as well. In meetings, normally the same people speak up and the same people are being quiet. And of course, that's also how people are. That's their character, so to speak. But also try to figure out why they're being quiet. Maybe don't do that in a meeting, but in your one-on-ones with people who don't tend to speak up in meetings, try to figure out what's happening there. If they are quiet for that can be for a number of reasons.
right. They could be shy.
Yeah, maybe, but sometimes they just are feeling uncomfortable, and you have
Yeah.
to figure out different ways to get their input.
Yeah.
Do you always ask for input in meetings? And if you know they're shy people and they don't tend to speak up, are you really getting their input? And that's what I talk
Right.
about, creating an equitable space. So maybe you need to email sometimes for brainstorm ideas so they have time to think about it and
Mm-hmm.
they can put something in an email and then they can participate. So that's what I mean by switching it up and
Yeah.
try to create an equitable space so that everybody can participate, because otherwise you won't get the input from the shy people and only the loud people will give their input, and that interaction pattern will go on and on and on and on and on.
That is a problem. The same voices talking all the time. And I think when we talk about diversity, people think, oh, nationality,
Yeah,
gender, but there's also diversity of thought. There's socioeconomic diversity.
yeah,
There's people who are neurologically diverse, introverts versus extroverts
extrovert,
versus
yeah,
so making a
all of
space
that,
so that
yeah,
everyone can contribute and can be a part of the conversation is part of having that inclusive space and
yeah.
also a space where people feel like they belong, right?
Exactly. The feeling of belonging, that it's that's what we're going after. And that is a complicated thing, When do you feel like you belong? It's such a
Mm,
personal feeling
yeah.
for everyone. And last week I had a training with a team and we talked a lot about safety.
Mm,
And I mentioned it like we all say, yeah, it needs to be safe and it needs to be safe, but what's safe for me may be very unsafe for you. So we need to make
right,
things explicit. We need to define what does safety mean within our group. And the same thing goes for belonging. What does it mean to belong in this group?
right,
And that can only happen when first you have those difficult conversations. So sometimes you have to make it a little bit unsafe, so to speak, by having those conversations. But going through that process together, you create that safety. It's not like an instant thing that you can just pull open a can of safety and then voila, there it is.
there's a can of safety.
Exactly. I wish it was that easy. But if you're willing to be uncomfortable with each other for a little bit, and of course, with all the respect and boundaries and little steps, but you create that space that you can, yeah, you create a bigger space for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that you and I have talked about before is having that sense of I like what you said about being unsafe first
Hmm.
before we can make it safe.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are scared of that unsafe. It's uncomfortable to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just, you just, and what I wanted to know, part of your workshop, are you going to show people how to feel uncomfortable or how to manage that uncomfortable part
A
or
little bit how to manage it, because we only have like an hour and a half.
yeah.
And I also want to give a lot of information about what is unconscious bias so that you can understand it. And of course, tips and tricks how to deal with it. But
Mhm.
how to be uncomfortable with each other, yeah,
Mm.
that's, I want to say a whole other workshop.
That's a
But,
whole day and a half. That's a whole week on its own.
but to be honest, normally when I do this work, I have like multiple days.
Yeah. Normally, how many days is it? Because we're really grateful that you could do this with us as an introduction and as a part of what would be a bigger program that you offer. But
Yeah,
how long is your normal program?
a day and a half usually, something
Really?
like that.
Okay.
And if it really
Okay.
is the time is a thing, then a day. But a day and a half is what I think is at least you need to invest in, to make a step. Because sometimes normally when you just focus on, okay, what is unconscious bias, then you know it, the awareness, but you don't
Yeah.
have time to really dig into, okay, but how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to translate this into works for our company?
Ooh, yeah.
I also include also always a lot of dialogue within the
Yeah.
team. So, and that's specific to your own team.
Right.
You can figure out how you can deal with this on a daily basis, and that honestly that takes time.
Yeah, I think the whole thing takes time. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm amazed that you do it in a day and a half, but I think you and I have talked about this before. A day and a half is not going to suddenly change the whole
wait,
environment, and
no,
everyone's going to
no.
be kumbaya, and we're all going to be hugging and cheering each other on. That's not going to happen. Not
No.
happening. No, you're gonna have to do more work and it's gonna take months. It's gonna
Yeah.
take a long period of time. This conversation and creating a safe space is not an overnight thing.
No, no, no,
It's
no.
not.
When I say a day and a half, that's the I think the amount of time that you can really take a step with a team and with an organization, and then they go do their normal thing, their day to day, and then after a month, I come back and we evaluate. So what has
Yeah,
gone well, what has gone wrong,
yeah,
and we continue that conversation over, like you said, a couple of months.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love those people, those companies. They're like, we did unconscious bias training. It's done.
Check.
Tick. No, it's not done. That
No, no,
day.
no, it's not
No.
done. And they figure it out as well, because they say they tell me, it's like, yeah, we did the unconscious bias and nothing changed. I'm like, oh, really?
So shocking.
Yeah, why am I not surprised? No, but at least they're trying. They're trying.
Yeah. And that is the effort to even do the first step is good. And I don't want to put anyone down, but I just feel like those companies that are using that first step as one and done, it's just not enough. It's those
No,
companies like this is our first step and we're going to do more.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I see companies more and more. I'm working with a creative agency right now, and they're investing like in months of training. You know, companies
Oh,
are trying to take it seriously, and those
oh,
are the
good.
companies I think will get this right, and
Yeah.
they will take the bigger leaps.
Yeah. Some will get it right.
Hmm. I hope so.
Okay, I want to invite everyone who's been listening to follow Bernice on LinkedIn. I'll share all of her LinkedIn profile and her website in the comments below. I also want to share the ticket to the event with Bernice. It's going to be the 20th of October at 6:30. It's about
Yes.
an hour and a half of your time. 6:30 p.m. Amsterdam time. So if you're in New York, that means it's 12:30. Uh, you could join us for lunch. Um,
Yeah,
you could join us for lunch. Bring
a
your lunch.
lunch workshop. That is awesome.
Exactly. I think it's still good. I'll put that link in the comments as well. If you're on YouTube, I'll put it there as well. And we're on Facebook now. And Bernice, I want to thank you again for giving me a little bit of your Saturday morning and just having this conversation with me.
No, it's my pleasure. I was, like I said, when you first approached me to do this workshop, I think this work is too important, so I always make time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully see you Wednesday.
Yes, we'll see you Wednesday, not soon, Wednesday.
Exactly.